What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Mike Dolce Show. Today, we're going to change it up and we're going to talk about broke doctors making excuses for their own decisions. This guy, I don't have his name right now. I'll post it under the video. This guy, I saw it on my buddy Dr. Bo Hightower's page, by the way. This guy goes on to complain about $500,000 in student debt. And a lot of the woke crybabies are cheering for him. What do you think? I'm going to give my thoughts on this, but I want to know what you think also. Let's take a listen.
I'm actually getting a little bit tired of responding to the trolls like this. I graduated medical school in 2013. I graduated residency in 2016. At the time I graduated from medical school, I had $500,000 in debt. By the time I finished residency, because of the interest on that $500,000, I had $600,000 in debt. I then went to a community clinic that did not pay me enough money to cover all my living expenses and the interest and pay on the loans. So I left to go to corporate medicine. By then, the debt had gone up to $650,000. I slowed the rate of increase down dramatically over about 3 years, but the city that we live in now is much more expensive. So just the cost of living, and then the public schools are so bad that I had to put my daughter in a private elementary school. So my debt increased by about $30,000 over the next 3 years. Then the pandemic hit, and I've managed to pay my debt down from $680,000 down to $630,000. So over the course of the last 7 years-ish, I've paid $227,000 on my student loans, and I still owe $130,000 more than I graduated with in 2013. So I get that people are going to say, oh, you're just a rich doctor, you're just whining about money, you make a ton of money, you should be able to pay this off. I didn't graduate medical school when I was 30. I graduated medical school when I was 40. The debt that I took on is significantly higher than other physicians. I'm a family physician, which is what I wanted to do, and it's what I believe in, and it's what I'd like to continue doing. But it doesn't pay enough to pay down my debt by the time I retire and save for retirement and buy a home, which is what you have to do in this country in order to be able to retire. You have to have a home paid for. You have to have enough retirement that you can live throughout your retirement years, and you have to pay down your debt. Not to mention the fact that my daughter is going to go to school, and when she goes to school, she will not get financial aid because my income is too high for her to qualify for financial aid. So I will also have to pay for her debt, or she will go into debt. I also have a 75-year-old father who is still working because he lost everything, and I can't help him. So when people say this kind of shit, you're making assumptions. I'd be really happy if you just shut your damn mouth. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm also not the most in-debt doctor I know.
All right. Now let's back this up briefly, and I want to explain to you. Number one, he knew the cost of college, right? You go to the grocery store, you buy a gallon of milk, it says $3 on the gallon of milk. You say, okay, I have $3 in my pocket. I'm going to purchase this gallon of milk for $3. He knew the cost of medical school. Likely, he chose a prestige school. He did not choose a school that he could afford. He likely did not choose an in-state institution. I'm assuming let me get into all that stuff later. So he knew the cost of college. He knew he could not afford to pay for college out of pocket. Therefore, he sought out loans to borrow money at a specified interest rate to pay for college. So he knew the cost of college. He knew he could not afford it. He chose to take out a loan, and he agreed to the terms of the loan, which is the length of the loan and the interest rate on the loan and any associated fees on that loan. Just like you, when you take out a loan to buy a car, to buy a house or something else, You agree to the terms of the loan. He agreed to it. And somehow he's surprised by it. I don't know what happened. So he agreed. He signed up for it. Then he goes to school and he studies the degree, family medicine, which is a very honorable degree, but it's not high paying. So he knew his specialty was not highly compensated. He took out a loan for a price that he could not afford at an interest rate that would grow at a rate faster than his ability to earn, right? Do you see this? He chose. So he chose the job that was not a high paying job. He chose to accept a job at a local hospital, he says, and the hospital, they didn't pay me enough. He says they didn't pay him enough. He accepted a job for a wage below his expenses, is what it sounds like. He then moves his family to an area that's very expensive to live. Another excuse. So he borrows money to pay off a known expense, which is his college education, at a very high interest rate that's growing faster than his ability to earn based upon his job selection. He then moves his family into an area which has a high cost of living, but he chooses a street with which his children will be sent to a very poor school. So he has to then pay for his kids to go to private school. All of this thus far is self-inflicted. He then goes on to say his daughter will, because of his income, won't be eligible for grants and some loans, preferential loans. So his daughter will either have to get an academic scholarship, an athletic scholarship. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of specific grants his daughter can qualify for. But his daughter can go to a local community college, a junior college, and she can get her 2-year associate's degree for literally pennies on the dollar while living at home, while working nights and weekends, and she can get her 2-year associate's. Then she can transfer and finish her bachelor's in 2 years at a state school in their area that she can commute and still live at home with mommy and daddy. And she can still work nights and weekends, and she can get her bachelor's degree, if that even matters. And we can actually debate whether or not it's even worthwhile to get your college degree. Clearly, it wasn't worth it for this guy. So his daughter can actually cash flow her education if she has a good financial mentor around her, which is not this guy. So now he complains that he can't afford to buy a house. He can't afford to pay off his house. He can't afford to pay off his loans. He can't afford to pay for his daughter's education. He can't afford to pay for his father's retirement. And it sounds like his father made poor financial decisions also. My point to all this, ladies and gentlemen, is do not let this guy fool you. This guy is an entitled, woke waste of time, waste of space. This guy chose every single decision he made. And if you know him, send him this video. I'm happy to have the conversation with him. You chose. You signed up for it. You simply were too entitled to understand there are consequences to your actions. You chose a shitty profession for a shitty wage in a shitty area and assumed shitty debt with shitty terms. And then you want to come on and lecture us, TikTok, social media, Instagram, the hardworking folk out there that don't go to social media to complain. We simply make good financial decisions that take care of our families and do not assuage our ego. You went back to medical school at what, 35? You graduated when you were 40. So clearly you had a career crisis in your 20s and 30s. You were not satisfied doing what you were doing, and you had an ego crisis wanting to be the big doctor. How about this, doc? You could have gone to night school, and in a year, you could have gotten your LPN. become a licensed practicing nurse. You could have worked full time. You could have cash flowed full time. You could be working in a hospital right now alongside those medical doctors with $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 debt. You could be making $150,000 to $200,000 a year as an LPN with zero debt. Yeah, true story. I got tons of friends and family that are LPNs and RNs. An RN requires a 4-year degree. You can be an RN with a 4-year degree, and I believe it's a 1 or 2-year specialized schooling and internship, in which you can work full time. It's hard. You can work nights and weekends and get your RN. And many times you can actually work inside the medical system, get on-the-job training, and create networks. And you could walk out as an RN. I know RNs that are making between $150 and $300 a year right now with zero college debt. Ooh, let me shed a single tear, not for your situation, Doc, but for your poor decision making. So, what do you guys think now? Am I going too hard, or am I 100% correct in my assessment? What are your thoughts? What do you think? What is your situation? Are you carrying undue debt? Do you blame the government? Do you blame society? Or do you take responsibility for your own decisions? I'd love to hear that below this video. And until next time, boom.